Wiggity, wiggity, wiggity. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. John here talking about another Yu-Gi-Oh deck that is coming out in Hidden Summoners in just under a month now. And this is Nephthys. So I just put out the Mayakashi video, so we have that one, and this is pretty much going to be a version of that, just literally doing an analysis of what the new cards do, what it's going to allow the archetype to do, and all kinds of things like that. Just a quick brief overview of the entire archetype as a whole. So the new Nephthys cards, it was never really an archetype before, it was just pretty much two monsters. Is this card, Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys and Dark Nephthys. Dark Nephthys really has no synergy with this deck at all, so pretty much Sacred Phoenix is the only one that actually can be even played in this deck, and I think it actually has decent synergy with the deck. Pretty much reads, during your next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, special summon this card from the graveyard. When you do, destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. So nice little back row wipe. It is both sides though, so you got to be careful how you play that. Don't set anything when you know this is coming back. And he's a 2400 beat stick, level 8 winged beast with fire attributes. So pretty decent card. I think in its heyday it was actually a pretty good card, and now obviously it's been kind of phased out. There's so much removal that is not destruction, and it's just kind of easy to out in current day Yu-Gi-Oh. But yeah, you get the point there. And so pretty much we have 4 new monsters, 2 new spells, a trap card, and then 4 extra deck monsters, and we'll get to those later. But let's start with the main deck monsters at least. So pretty much all of them sort of have similar effects, and they all rely on destroying cards in your hand, which is actually pretty important because Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys has an effect that triggers in destruction period. It doesn't have to be on the field or at all. So this can just be in your hand. You don't have to worry about getting it on the field first. And like this card says, target one level 4 lower Nephthys monster in your graveyard, except itself, destroy one card in your hand. If you do, special summon in defense mode, but negate its effects. So like using this, you can pop a Phoenix in your hand or pop the other ones in your hand. So they all have like an effect that will pop something in your hand, and then they have a second effect that has to do with what happens when they are popped. So this one says, during the standby phase of your next turn, after this card is destroyed by a card effect, special summon this card. It's a hard once per turn though. Wait, do they all have that effect? No, they don't. Okay, so this one has the same effect as Nephthys, bringing itself back on the next standby phase, but other than that, it's going to allow you to special summon a monster from your graveyard, a Nephthys monster level 4 or lower, but still also getting Nephthys to get ready to pop off on your next standby phase, wiping an entire back row as well. Then we have Prayer of Nephthys. This is by far my favorite one design-wise. I think the colors are cool, and I also think the design is the cutest by far. 0 attack 2000. During your main phase, you can destroy one card in your hand. If you do, add a Nephthys monster from deck to hand. So a nice, easy search, pretty much a Dragonic diagram, but popping cards in the hand specifically. During the standby phase of your next turn after this card was destroyed, you can add one Nephthys spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So this card's a double searcher. You could use it to pop something in search, and then you can pop it, and then you'll get to search a spell or trap card, Nephthys spell or trap card on your next standby phase. So it can be a +2 pretty much. So that's pretty cool. Interesting. Well, maybe not a +2. You do have to destroy a card in your hand, but then those cards are going to get recursion. There's a whole line of like, none of these cards are like straight +1s or whatever. There's a whole line of like, you'd have to go into what you're popping, what their effect is, how they recur, if you have the ability to recur with them, and then you can determine whether they're pluses or neutrals or minuses or anything. But this card's pretty good. I think it actually might be the best one. Just getting that search, kind of fixing your hand the way you want it there. Then we have Protector of Nephthys. This one's a pretty cool design as well. I like how bright she is. 1400, she's also the biggest one as far as them all being level 2 weak monsters. So she says, during your main phase, destroy one card in your hand. If you do, special summon a level 4 Nephthys monster from your hand, another one from your hand. So this one's pretty good at just helping you get another one on the board, so you can pop again and activate their effect. And during the standby phase of your next turn after this card was destroyed, instead of your graveyard, destroy one Nephthys monster in your deck. So that's even better. You can straight up pop a Sacred Phoenix with this effect on your next standby phase, and then on the next standby phase, you're getting Phoenix back and you're wiping back row. Right now, honestly, I think that's like kind of strong. Sacred Phoenix, just because all like Yu-Gi-Oh right now, the metagame is literally like outside of Gokis, like obviously not Gokis, but then you have after Gokis you have Sky Striker. They play back row. They play not a ton of back row, but they do play back row nonetheless. Altergeist, Trickstars, True Dracos, Paleos, and then Burning Abyss is the other one that doesn't really play back row, but like literally 6 out of the top 8 decks play back row. So actually, you have a chance to blow out decks like that and summon a 2400 beat stick that they may struggle to deal with. So pretty interesting nonetheless. But I actually like her. I think she's pretty good. Popping anything from the deck, it's pretty decent. There. The problem is their effects are a little slow because they're all on the next standby phase when you start getting those recursions and pluses and stuff. But we have Speaker of Nephthys next. Target Nephthys card in your graveyard, destroy one card in your hand. If you do, add that target to your hand. So this one adds from graveyard back to hand. It's probably the weakest one as far as like that first effect goes. Then during the standby phase, after this card was destroyed instead of the graveyard, add a Nephthys card from graveyard to hand. Yeah, so it's like a double recursion card. You probably wouldn't play this at 3. You probably play it at 1 or 2 because mid to late game this card can definitely be pretty strong getting your cards back from grave. So one of the cool things about the 3 new decks that are coming out is that Nephthys are trying to be built around rituals. Jeez, couldn't remember. Mayakashis are built around synchros, and we have prank kids, which are built around fusions. All 3 also having to do with a little bit of linking as well, so it's a combination of that, which is good. I think that's what Yu-Gi-Oh should be. If we have 5 different types of extra deck monsters before links, and links are supposed to make it easier to get into them, so like there should be a combination. It shouldn't just be an extra deck with 15 link monsters, I feel like. So I think this is good, making archetypes like these. But this card is pretty much a basic ritual card with a little effect. Use the ritual summon a Nephthys ritual. You can also tribute monsters from your hand or fielders to a levels equal. Blah, blah, blah. Also, after that, if you tributed Avatar of Nephthys and or Sacred Blue Phoenix of Nephthys for this ritual summon, you can destroy 1 card in the field. So it does have the possibility of popping something if you use these cards as material. Then we have Hope of Nephthys. This card's okay. This card says target 1 Nephthys card you control and 1 card your opponent controls, destroy them. It's targeting destruction, but it does destroy something by card effect, so you do get an effect from it where your opponent probably doesn't, the way you're probably planning on using it. I think this card's just super weak for 2018. This should be a non-targeting. This should just be like, they should just say like destroy 1 Nephthys card you control and 1 card your opponent controls. It shouldn't target. But yeah, it's just super weak. If it was like a quick effect that did non-targeting, then we're looking at something interesting. But it's just so underwhelming for 2018 standards. And then the 1 trap card we have here is Awakening of Nephthys. This card says all Nephthys monsters you control gain 300. It is a continuous, keep that in mind. If this face-up card in the spell and trap zone is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Nephthys from your hand, deck, or graveyard, but destroy it during the end phase. I actually like this one a decent bit. I don't know how much you play it because you have to pop it. That's the only thing. You're relying on having something to pop it. But I guess, do they pop monsters specifically? It says destroy any card in your hand. No, but this card has to be face up in the spell and trap zone once destroyed. So like, is this the only card that like helps with that, or like Sacred Phoenix wiping back row? Yeah, so you do have ways to do it, but it's not as reliable as you once thought. I guess this can do it too. You have a couple ways to do it, so it's not that bad. Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's definitely playable in the deck. But let's move. So there's 2 rituals and 2 link monsters, which I like. I like the balance there. We have Avatar of Nephthys is the first one. It's a level 2 ritual. This is what makes sense. All of the main deck ones are level 2 except for Sacred Phoenix. You can ritual summon this card with Rebirth of Nephthys. If this card is ritual summoned, you can special summon any Nephthys monster from your deck. Also destroy this card during the end phase. That's really, really good because you can just pull Sacred Phoenix out straight up. So that's a 2400 beat stick. This card dies on the end phase. You may just be pulling something out to go into a link monster. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can destroy a Nephthys card in your hand. And if you do special summon this card, I think this card's actually a really good transitional piece for what it is, for what the deck is. I think this card's a really good transitional piece. Wow. On ritual summon, pull out a Sacred Phoenix, which is level 8, keep that in mind, and then destroy this card on the end phase, but this card will be gone by then. And then if this card's in the graveyard, you can destroy and up this card in your hand if you do special summon this card. Okay, pretty good. And then you get those effects. Pretty strong. The reason I like this is because we've seen legacy support where like Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, they still can end up being bricks in the hand, but Sacred Phoenix literally gets its like pop effect triggered with like over half the cards in your deck, which is really, really nice, because I know one of the problems playing Sacred Phoenix in olden times was it's a brick. It's a level 8 brick if you can't get it out or destroy it in the hand, which you usually couldn't back then. There was nothing to really destroy something right in the hand, but so many of these cards just destroy stuff in your hand, so you can just pop it off. You may set up like a mediocre board, but as long as you don't die, you're getting a Sacred Phoenix and you're wiping back row all in one. Possibly more, because it's not once per turn on that special summon effect. So if you're able to pop multiple Phoenix in your hand, or in deck, even we saw the deck card, you can definitely plus a lot and minus your opponent a lot, especially if you're playing a back row deck. So pretty cool. I think this deck's interesting. This is definitely a pretty good transitional piece here. Then we have Sacred Blue Phoenix of Nephthys. Ooh, really creative with the name, boys. I love it. When this card is ritual summoned, during your main phase, you can destroy any number of Nephthys cards from your hand or field and destroy that many monsters your opponent controls. Does not target. Not bad. Not bad. During the standby phase of your next turn after this card was destroyed, by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card. Wow, so this one's pretty actually dangerous. I mean, you gotta remove this without destruction. And I say there's a ton of like non-destruction removal going around, but it's like you don't have enough to out all of these monsters that way. You may play like Unicorn in your extra deck, Borreload to steal something, but usually you can't do it more than twice a turn. Most decks can't non-destruction removal. So if you have like this and a Sacred Phoenix on board, your opponent's probably maybe forced to like pop one of them at least if they're going to destroy him at all. Interesting. I think this card's pretty strong. I mean, non-targeting destruction kills Borreload, outs Borreload, and it's 3,000. It's pretty big, and it comes back. Pretty cool. The only problem here, I feel like, is consistency. The main problem is if you're playing these, how are you consistently getting these and your ritual card at the same time? That's the question. Maybe incantations, maybe other cards. I'm not entirely sure. But then we move to the Link monsters, the last two monsters in the deck. We have Nephthys, the Palladian deity. 1,200 attack, any two Nephthys monsters. If this Link summoned card is on the field, you can activate one of these effects and is once per turn. So you just choose one of these, you activate them once per turn. Add one level 8 winged beast monster from deck to your hand, then you can add one ritual spell card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, I see the play. Now. Okay. Then you can destroy one Nephthys monster this card points to, and if you do special summon from your graveyard a Nephthys monster with a different name but negate its effects. Okay. Yeah, if you're just using it as link material, why not destroy something so that its effects are going to trigger next standby phase, and then link that one off as material. Doesn't matter if its effects are negated. Nice. I think it's a good transitional piece for sure. Link 2, solid. Then we have Nephthys, the Blazing Sacred Phoenix, the last boss monster here. 2+ monsters, including a ritual monster. It's pretty generic. This card gains effects based on the number of ritual monsters used for its link summoned. Okay. So if you used 1, 2, or 3 ritual monsters, you get these effects in succession. So if you only use one ritual monster to summon it, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. 2,400 can't be destroyed by battle. Poop. You're not making it at that point. This card gains 1,200 attack, also cannot be destroyed by card effects. Immune to battle, immune to destruction by card effects, and you're 3,600. Now that may be worth it in most instances. Then we have this card gains 1,200 more attack, and it cannot be targeted by card effects. So if you are able to make this thing with 3 different... Oh, that's really interesting. This card's really generic too, and we're getting like a lot of ritual support. So if you're just able to get 3 rituals on board, you might as well put this in your extra deck, because this card just wins. Because then you have a 48 beat stick that can't be targeted, can't be destroyed, can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. So unless they have a kaiju, or I guess Abyss Judge, whatever that new card is, Herald of the Abyss, something like that, they just can't out this. This card's just unoutable. for a lot of decks, and you just beat them over for game. That's interesting. It's definitely really interesting. Cool boss monster. I don't think this deck necessarily is going to be able to spam this out too easily, but I definitely think maybe with all the ritual support, this card may be abusable in certain decks for sure to just kind of steal games, kind of like an Ultimate Falcon type thing. But overall impressions for the deck, I think it's pretty cool. Honestly, I think it's better than Mayakashi's. Mayakashi just get locked into their beat stick extra deck, and it's not very good. I at least think these extra deck monsters can do some things, like Sacred Blue Phoenix can wipe an entire board, and it recurs on any destruction of itself, so that's pretty cool. 3,000 beat stick. And they have some pretty cool transitional pieces in the oh, these aren't extra deck, but I forgot. These are main deck. Obviously they're rituals, but really pretty good transitional piece here. Pretty good transitional piece for a low link monster, easy to make. And I think the monsters, like obviously the main problem is the deck is slow. When you pop the cards in your hand, you got to wait an entire turn for their effects to start going off on your next standby phase. So obviously the deck's slow, but I think overall the deck, because it's slow, you can just kind of like creep grinding better than most. And I don't think the deck's that bad. I definitely don't think the deck is good. This is definitely a casual deck for sure. I don't expect anything meta relevant to really come from this deck, at least for a while, unless somebody breaks the deck wide open with some engine that works perfectly, amazingly, and nobody knew it type thing. But at least for now, I'm not expecting big things. But I think the deck is cool, that it pops stuff in your hand, pops stuff in your deck, straight up to just generate advantage. And yeah, I like it. I think it's better than Mayakashi, honestly, which I wasn't expecting because I honestly hadn't looked too deep into these two archetypes. And I thought Mayakashi was going to be better than these, but I actually think this is better than Mayakashi. But let me know what you guys think. If I'm a big dumb idiot, let me know. And if you like this video, sorry it's so long. I didn't mean for it to be so long. I just get rambly and I just can't stop talking. But subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos if you would so like to do that, please. And have a great rest of your Friday, guys. Peace out.